Naraka Bladepoint put out some interesting changes in last week's update that I want to talk about today. If you've been watching MBPL or even just been playing trios recently, you've probably noticed the team composition of Kylin, Hadi, and Zafing. This trio's comp was exceptionally strong since Hadi could use his first ultimate to place the mechanical escape cube in the sky, and then cancel his ult to retain around 50% rage. Then Kylin with second ultimate and Zafing with first ultimate would use their ultimates at the same time, giving Kylin nearly unlimited slashes in his ult, while everyone would be able to use the cube if they got into any trouble. This has proven to be so incredibly effective that we're seeing multiple nerfs to 2 of the 3 characters in ways that will directly affect this comp. Hit the like button real quick and let's get into these changes. So let's start by looking at the Kylin changes. Firstly, it now takes slightly longer to charge to the empowered attack stage in his ultimates. This change feels pretty noticeable, and Kylin charge attacks should be less frequent now. There's also a slightly longer recovery added to the end of a charged attack, and the attack has had its range slightly reduced. I think this has been one of the most oppressive ultimates in the game, and these changes seem like they aim to give his ultimate more counterplay. The pulling effect on enemies has been changed again, slightly adjusting the behavior of the enemies hit by the ultimate slashes. We'll have to see how this change feels in game. It's probably just a quality of life thing. Damage of uncharged attacks got reduced by like 40% or so, but the damage of charged attacks got buffed by around 9%. This is pretty good, considering uncharged attacks could be spammed on an opponent's wake up, and since they're nerfing everything else about his ultimate, it's nice that they threw a little damage buff in there too. They've also changed the timing of jump and dodge cancels for charging attacks in his ultimate, which really just makes it easier to do the jump, charge, dodge, jump, charge movement thing, which is pretty fun. Also, they've increased the recovery frames of his first skill, but I haven't really noticed this yet. Comment down below if you know what this change was about. Alright, so overall, Kylin's ultimate is getting hit pretty hard, although I'm sure many players will appreciate these changes since he was starting to make trios kinda miserable. But it wasn't just Kylin, it also had to do with Hadi. So now let's move on to the Hadi nerfs and see why this team comp is suffering so much right now. Hadi got 2 really big nerfs here that will shift the viability of this team comp. The first one is a change to his rage cost on his first ultimate from 40% to 60% to activate. Now, if Hadi uses his ultimate, places a cube, and cancels his ultimate, he will have around 35% ultimate charge left instead of 55%. This is pretty impactful in how often Hadi will get to use his ultimate, though not too detrimental on its own. But when combined with the next change, we can see the downfall of this team. After activating either ultimate, even if the ultimate is deactivated early, rage will not be gained for 15 seconds. So now, when Hadi uses his ult, places a cube, and cancels, not only will he have around 35% rage, but his ultimate won't even start recharging until it's been 15 seconds from when he activated it. Honestly, I think this change is good. Fighting this team comp was really frustrating because of how safe they are behind their abilities, and how often Hadi would put cubes down. But now, I think both of those strengths have been addressed, and this team should feel more fair to fight against. The last change to Hadi was a visual change to his cube. Now it will pulse with light energy, making it much easier for everyone to see where the cube is, and making it much harder to hide. This is another good change. The cube was pretty stealthy before, and sometimes it seemed like the enemies were just cubing into the abyss. But now it should be much easier to track enemies that have used a Hadi escape cube. In conclusion, the Kylin Hadi Trios team has rightfully been heavily nerfed, following its recent dominance in both competitive and casual play. I'm excited to see what new team comps will rise to the top next, especially after we get the new hero Sira very soon. I'll be covering her release both on the test server and live version, so go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss those. I'm working with Naraka right now to get a Sira Trios tournament event going, and it should be ready for November 2nd. Make sure to join my Discord with the link in the description to get more information on that. With all that out of the way, let's try out the post-nerf Hadi Kylin team comp for ourselves and see how we feel about the new changes. So I went through a few games of ranked trios with this comp, with me as the Hadi, and there were some key differences I was noticing in these games versus when I'd previously played this team comp in the past. One thing that was immediately noticeable was the rage activation cost change to 60%. This leaves Hadi with a mere 30 to 40% ultimate charge after placing a cube, which usually led me to just stay in my ultimate instead of canceling it, since I felt I could get more value out of the 35% remaining rage by continuing to fly around and deal damage with my gold-focused ultimate charged attacks, especially since I wouldn't be gaining rage for 15 seconds after activating the ultimate. This means less cubes for the team, which means less safety, but it also means a bit more aggression from the Hadi. I was also noticing that our Kylin's damage output was not as high as it used to be in general, probably due to the fact that charge attacks take longer to come out now while having less range, and uncharged attacks deal significantly less damage. However, in the games where we didn't do very good, it wasn't because our team didn't synergize well, because this team comp still works together well by design, but I think this last patch did what it was intended to do: balance this team. Hadi in this comp doesn't feel like he used to. I used to be able to have a nearly constant uptime on escape cubes and team fights, whereas now, canceling ultimate after cube isn't necessarily a bad strategy, but staying in ultimate for the flight mode seems much more valuable with the current state of Hadi's first ultimate. The cube being available all the time was the backbone of this team composition, and I can't help but feel like the Hadi in this lineup may be better off replaced with another hero like Timulch or Balda, maybe a hero that can peel and control the enemy for Kylin's damage setup, so I'll be keeping my eyes on the pros while they test new Kylin team comps. In fact, I think Kylin's nerf was just as heavy as it pertains to this team comp. His main job is to deal damage and control the enemy, and his ability to do both of those things just got reduced. Personally, I loved playing this team comp before the nerf, yet I'm still glad to see it getting properly balanced, since this just gives more room for other new team comps to shine, while also keeping around the old team comps that people know and love. We still don't know what abilities Sierra will use, and again, I will be hosting a Trios tournament right after her release, requiring every team to use the new character to get the team comp search kicked off as early as possible, so make sure you join the Discord with the link in the description below. Feel free to leave a comment expressing your thoughts on these changes to the newest and most popular Trios team composition, as well as your predictions for a possible future replacement for Hadi in this lineup. I was playing as Kylin in a Kylin Timulch Zaping lineup before the Hadi team was widely known about, and there is a lot of synergy there as well, since Timulch makes it so easy to have a good setup for Kylin to get massive value out of his ultimate. Kylin also works really well with a double healer lineup like Zaping and Kurumi, since this gives him more HP than he knows what to do with in his ultimate. But remember, Kylin Hadi Zaping is not dead. It's still good. It's just not as broken now as it has been for the past few weeks. So don't think you can't play this comp anymore. It's still fun to play, and you can still win games with it. Anyway, that's about it for this quick analysis on the character balance changes. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next one.